I want to talk about running for Los Angeles City Controller back in 2009. Actually, I started the campaign in 2008. If I had to pick one of the big things, highlights in my life, and one of the things I'm most proud of, this was definitely in the top two or three. You know, running for city controller. I've had a lot of proud moments, but it's like the city controller's race was meant an awful lot to me, and it's like I was so glad I did it. Fortunately, I didn't win. So the election was held the first Tuesday in March of 2009, and there were three of us running. And there was this big, it was a long project to run for city controller. It's like once I threw my hat in the ring, I met Walter Moore. He gave a talk at one of the club meetings that I go to. I hadn't met him before, and he was running for mayor of LA. It was his second time running for mayor, and he was running against Villaraigosa. And I really wish he had won. He did come in second. There was a lot of people running, and unfortunately, Villaraigosa got just over 50% of the vote. And anyway, it's like he would have been a really fantastic mayor. Anyway, I was inspired by him, and I decided like 24. He mentioned it's like, well, why don't you, because I told him my background and everything, because I was a controller for a long time. He says, well, why don't you run for controller? And I said, it's like, I thought about it for like one day, and I said, yeah, I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I'm going to do it. So, and it was a lot of work and a lot of fun, and I did depend on certain people to help me, especially when getting enough signatures, valid signatures. You need 500. That may not seem like a lot, but it's like I remember going down and like all of us going down and picking up the paperwork and stuff, and they gave us the signature, the ballots, not the ballots, but the, so we could get, these signatures and get the ballot signatures so we get, 500, they gave us a lot of extra. And what I had to do is like, I got at least half of them myself, and then I depended on, like, I would give one or two of the things to other friends and so on, anybody I knew that could also get signatures for me. And to get 500, you really have to get like, probably get at least 700 signatures, because some of them are not good. People will sign it and they'll like not actually live in LA. You have to live in the city of LA, or they would sign it, even though you have to be a registered voter. They weren't registered, but they felt like they were helping you, and they didn't mention that, so they'd sign it anyway. So so that was a whole project unto itself, just getting the signatures and everything. And actually I helped Walter. He would exchange some of the forms with, we exchanged some of the forms. So I did a couple of forms for him, and he did a couple for me. And the same thing with David was running for city attorney too. He did some for me, and I did some for him, but it was just, and then you only had a certain amount of time. I want to say it was like 3 weeks or something. I can't quite remember how long it was, but we had a short time span to get it in, and I managed to get it in. I got it in probably a couple days before the deadline. I didn't want to get there just, right on the deadline day, because that's not good. But I think it was at least a few days beforehand. So it's like we got them all in, and then, I got verification, maybe a day or two later that I had enough signatures to get on the ballot. The other two people that were running were Wendy Greuel, who was a city councilwoman, no experience in accounting or anything. It was just for her, it was just a step up to run for mayor, because she was planning on running for mayor all along. It was, to her, it's like she couldn't, run for mayor then, because Villaraigosa was running for his second term. So anyway, it was just a step up for her. She didn't really give a crap. And then the other one was, the other person running was Nick Patsaouras, and he was, I don't have the information on him, in front of me, but he was like with the, one of the agencies like DWP or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it's like, he was involved, he was in that. And so he had some backing and everything. And I actually saw on the campaign trail, I went to a lot of functions, a lot of them, and it was great, because I got to meet a lot of people and talk to people, and It's like there were people supporting me, and I would give a little speech. They usually let us give a little speech. I'm not that comfortable with public speaking, but I had to get used to it. So I would, talk, and then the other candidates would talk, and like people running for city council. There was another guy running for city council we knew, and I'd see Walter at almost all of these things too, and then and Nick Patsaouras. It's like there were a couple of radio stations. We did. Videos, there was like public access video or something, and I think I have a copy of it on my computer somewhere, where they did it for each candidate. Anybody that was running at all, they did, did it. And the guys doing the videos were great. It's like, he gave me a couple of suggestions and everything. So they helped all of the candidates out. So that was great. That was a good memory, the parties and everything. And then I have to say about Nick Patsaouras, it's like, even though I was running against him, at least he showed up on just about everything I showed up at. Wendy Greuel was mostly a no-show at these functions. She really didn't give a rat's ass. She was out collecting money and everything so she could spend more money on campaigning, on the campaign, advertising. So she had plenty of money for advertising and so on. So she was involved. She was heavily, that's how she was doing it. So I'd see her at a few, and usually in the one radio show I remember being on, she liked to filibuster, so she'd be on the phone. She called it in. Nick Patsaouras and I we both showed up at the radio show, at the radio station, and we're doing it in person. And then Wendy Greuel called it in. And she would filibuster. She would talk and talk and talk, and that was deliberate, so that we would have less time to talk and give our answers and so on. So anyway, she spent a lot of money on the campaign, and she mostly spent it on trying to. She made her main opponent she saw as Nick Patsaouras. I was just just some. She just ignored me, and she so she did attack ads and so on Nick Patsaouras, and it's like, and Nick, I think, was not used to campaigning and stuff, so it was like a new thing to him. So it's like he couldn't believe all this stuff was happening to him, and and I was pretty much ignored by that. I was actually surprised at how much media attention I did get. It's like I thought I'd get like none, because I was like an unknown person. And I was very pleased with, it's like the amount of, attention I did get, because I was, did end up being on TV, radio show, some radio shows and stuff. So they would always invite, and I think, it's like it was just a way to fill space, fill airtime or something. But it was good. It was good that they didn't just completely ignore me, that they saw me as, at least some of them saw me as a valid candidate. And I really didn't want to be the city controller. I was living in Van Nuys at the time, and Lake Balboa actually, and so I spent quite a bit. Even though I was running a business, I had to spend about half my time working on the campaign and so on. And anyway, it's one of the proudest moments of my life. The results were Walter Moore had a election night party, and so I went to that along with I think a couple other candidates went too. And it's like they were, had TVs that were airing it. So it's like it was some place where they served pie. So, because I remember having a bunch of pie, there was a bunch of pie there. So we were eating pie at the party and stuff. And Kevin James, radio host Kevin James, who ended up working for the city later on, he was there at the time. He was a radio host, and he was a heavy supporter of Walter Moore, and I really wish he had won the mayor's seat, because he would have been just fantastic mayor. I was more interested in actually him winning than me winning. It's like if I could give you some extra votes, I would. But he was there, and we stayed to the bitter end, because we kept looking at the election results and coming in and stuff. And at some point, we knew that. I knew I wasn't going to win. It's like but it's like because I was too far behind right from the beginning. And then but it's like it just didn't look like. I think Walter got like 28% of the vote, but there were other candidates that were not Tony Villaraigosa. It's like it added up to about 48% or something like that. And what was I gonna say? It's like I remember seeing the, like they were on the news thing. It's like it popped up, the results and stuff. When the results started popping up, for my race and stuff, they initially had me at the bottom because they assumed that, and very shortly thereafter they moved it because I came up second. I got like 1 or 2 percentage points more than Nick, and that's only because he was attacked so much. And because they expected me to just come in last place because nobody knew who the heck I was. So that was, it's like I knew earlier in the evening that I wasn't going to win the seat. While I was there was like some news crew. There was at least a couple of news crews there at that party, at the election night party. And I remember Walter got interviewed by them, and so the one that was outside. It's like they interviewed him and stuff, at the beginning of the thing when the results were starting to come in, and then I remember during the when they were still getting results in and everything, that I got to do, like it was like on a tablet or something. There was somebody there, and it's like I was being interviewed by it was one of the major stations, 247, and it's like I was being interviewed, and it's like, and they were talking about results and stuff, and the results hadn't come in, but they finally said it's like, I was like in second. I think they said I was in second place, or it's like the the results have started coming in, so here's where you're at and everything. So it's like that. That was kind of an odd interview because I was looking like at a tablet, and this was back in 2009. So anyway, that was we stayed till almost midnight, I think, before we left. There was only a few of us left, like him and James, and then there were a couple of friends of Walter Moore and his wife, and Walter, and then we just kind of okay, well, it didn't work again this time, so it's like, let's move on. It was just it was kind of depressing, so because we didn't just lose, the city of LA lost when they elected the wrong people, so because nothing really changed. And like I said, it's like the whole adventure and everything was just it was fantastic. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.